When two people love each other with a strong, authentic love, it can be hard and distressing for them to be away from each other. We can think about the loss of a daughter or a son in a tragedy, or the love between a married couple. It's often the case, even with elderly spouses, that when one of them passes away, the other soon dies, often because of grief and sorrow produced by love. Now there is someone whom we love, or we should love, who encompasses in himself all perfections, all beauties and attractions that we could ever have. And without this person at the center of our actions and our thoughts, our life would be a long and lonely suffering. And this person is God. And for sure, because we live here on earth, there are many distractions caused by creatures that hinder and prevent us from discovering the great truth of God and His love for us. But this won't be the case when we die. We will feel the presence of God and His attractions and the irresistible need to be with Him. This is the force that the saints, to a certain degree, felt here on earth. But what happens then if we haven't searched for and loved God here on earth? What happens if we choose instead to love creatures and earthly pleasures that pass away, and reject the graces and opportunities God gives us? If this was the case, then we seriously risk choosing hell as our ultimate end, since this is the ultimate state that is merited by a willful rejection of the love of God. When most people think about hell, they think about its enormous pains and torments, and we certainly ought to be aware of that horrible aspect of hell. We hear Christ Himself warn that those who do not follow His commands will go to the eternal fire. But these pains, the pains of sense, only constitute a small part of the sufferings of hell. Imagine for a moment if God Himself came into the regions of hell. It's a strange scenario, but it's important to realize that even in the midst of such horrible suffering, if we were to look upon God, it would be like heaven, even with those sensible pains. The physical pains of hell are very small when compared to the spiritual pain of total separation and loss of God for all eternity. St. Alphonsus Liguori put it like this: all other penalties compared to this pain of loss can scarcely be called penalties. Hell is truly a terrible place to be for all of eternity. From these considerations usually arises the question, why does such a terrible place exist? Why would God inflict such pains? It's important to view it in the context of the freedom God gives us, which is central to the possibility of real love, of which an essential aspect is choice. No one can force a person to love God, not even God, but He gives us every possible chance to learn to love Him freely, to the point of becoming man and dying on the cross of shame for us, to show us how much He loves us and make it possible for us to respond to that love through grace. Although hell might at first bring doubts about God's love for us, we can't stop there. Just think about the incarnation. Look at the crucifix, contemplate Christ crucified, and ask yourself if God could have done any more to receive our love and our gratitude. Let us recall the Blessed Virgin Mary as she stood at the foot of the cross, and ask her to bestow the grace of conversion and salvation upon all the living, so that when our final moment comes, we may die loving God and enter heaven to enjoy His presence for all of eternity. We ask our Mother for this grace.